these plagiarism allegations, where Claudine Gay has had to issue corrections, multiple corrections. Now, we should note that Claudine Gay has not been accused of stealing anyone's ideas in any of her writings. She's been accused of sort of more like copying other people's writings without attribution. So it's been more...
If only there was a word for that. Copying other people's writings without attributions. If only we could have a definition for that. But you know, let's talk about that in a little bit. First, let's see who this Claudine lady is. Because she came into the spotlight a couple of weeks ago during the whole conflict in the Middle East between Hamas and Israel. And people have noticed something very interesting. They noticed that at many prestigious universities, there was a rise in anti-Semitic cases on the campuses. I mean, this doesn't make any sense, right? Universities, they have these things, safe spaces. They have people that are hired and they're paid tens of thousands of dollars in order to make sure that microaggressions don't happen. And yet here you have, at Harvard, macroaggressions. So she was summoned into the United States Senate in order to respond for these allegations, which, you know, to normal folks like us who have been following what's going on at university is not surprising. I mean, you have the entire critical theory, which is basically suggesting that capitalism bad, white people bad. I mean, look, you have even this article in the university that's saying that they want to the destruction of the white race, right? So when you teach that to students, when you go out of their way in order to promote that as your curriculum, well, when you see the conflict in the Middle East, they look at Benjamin Netanyahu and say, well, you know what, like, he looks kind of white to me, and he does seem to run a nation that is capitalistic. And then you can't go Pikachu face when you see the students at the university behaving in such a manner. So when she was summoned at the Senate and she was asked, like, what's going on? Well, apparently, she couldn't say that calls for the genocide of Jewish people constitute harassment under university policy. Dr. Claudine Gay said that it is dependent on the context. Now, unfortunately, no one asked her, like, can you give us a specific context in mind? Because, you know, it's an interesting way. I mean, she's a university professor. Like, she must have access to certain amount of knowledge that mortals like us do not have, right? But she refused to elaborate. And this caused an entire controversy. Now, eventually, people looked into some of her academic papers and they noticed that she committed the sin of plagiarism. Now, plagiarism is a big academic no-no. You know, it's kind of like when you have comedians, because I do consider academics to be very close to the profession of comedians. But it's kind of like when you have a comedian that steals the jokes of other comedians without giving credit. Yeah, you kind of get ostracized by your peers. You kind of get kicked out of the comedy club if you do that. It's kind of the same with the universities. Like if you're a student or if you're, heaven forbid, a professor, if you do any type of plagiarism, your career is over. Like, you get kicked out, right? So it was interesting to see how CNN and even today the Associated Press and other publications, they're now trying to change the definition of what plagiarism is. It doesn't really work that way because, you see, as a university, when you decide to terminate students for plagiarism, so for instance, you have a student that's almost about to graduate, but you caught them plagiarizing, so now you kick them off of the university. Right. If you change the definition after that, well, now that student can sue your ass. And I guarantee to you there would be hundreds, if not thousands of lawsuits from all these students that have been terminated over plagiarism if now you decide to make an exception because the university professor that you like has been accused of this, right? But just so you can understand how ridiculous this is, like, the Associated Press is claiming that the Harvard president's resignation highlights new conservative weapon against colleges, plagiarism. Well, Associated Press, how many cases of plagiarism are there that the conservatives can now use it as a freaking weapon? I mean, it is so ridiculous and so obvious what they are doing. that even on their own website, and this is why, all the journalists give their comment sections disabilities, because they don't want people to point this thing out. This is why they literally despise Elon Musk, because the peasants have now a place to gather, and we can laugh together at the Associated Press, which has on its own website regarding their values and principles, right? So they consider this as a value and a principle, that AP staffer who reports and writes a story must use original content, language, and phrasing. We do not plagiarize, meaning that we do not take the work of others and pass it off as our own. Oh my God, quick change it off our website, and make sure that you file a cease and desist letter to the Internet Archive and other places so that people can't really know how disingenuous you are, Associated Press. And by the way, I find it funny enough that the AP is considered an authoritative source, right? Like if they say something on YouTube, they're considered fact checkers and reliable. Well, how about you get fact checked by the peasants? How about that? Because now, since Twitter has a new system that allows the public to fact check the fact checkers, you get stuff like this. Readers added context. Plagiarism is a breach of rules for Harvard. Claudine Gay was ultimately forced to resign for a series of breaches of this policy. Plagiarism, or the application of the rules around plagiarism, cannot be considered a weapon. But I'm pretty sure that the people at the Associated Press know that. By the way, I am curious. How is it like to be a journalist at the Associated Press, right? Because you're a person that's employed. You're paid to write garbage, right? Like, this is your life. This is who you are. You're probably happy that you're going to their open office after leaving your house, which is smelling of cat piss. And you're told, it's like, hey, this person that you probably don't know or care about, yeah, you need to risk your reputation and write some garbage to defend. I mean, I know it's indefensible, right? Because, she violated something that even we would consider to be our principles. Like, she plagiarized. She couldn't denounce genocide, right? Like when in front of the American Senate, she couldn't denounce genocide. She said that it's about the context, right? Like you have to defend this person now. No, you're not going to get an increase in pay or anything. You do it for the same amount. At least you're not doing it for free like a Reddit Johnny. How does it feel though, huh? Like, surely you must have, at least a shred of integrity there as a journalist to feel that it has been violated when you're asked to defend the indefensible, right? Now, of course, what's even more hilarious is that as Claudine Gay resigned, marking, I guess, the first ever shortest tenure at Harvard, she didn't, be like a mature person and just step down without saying anything or saying some platitudes. No. It's because of racism over the internet. She got, backlash because of her identity politics. Okay. What's hilarious, though, is that I saw people on Twitter claiming that she plagiarized her stepping down letter. Like, her resignation letter was plagiarized. Now, again, I am not in the position to say that the person who resigned under accusations of plagiarism has plagiarized her resignation letter. I will give the benefit of the doubt, though, because she used a lot of social justice language, and social justice language is very narrow, right? It uses the same buzzwords, the same framing, the same stuff. So due to that nature of the language, yes, is the cisgender, heteronormative, blah, 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 like when you go like that there's not much you can divert from. I got racism from the internet, the evil trolls, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of like the same thing. You heard it once, you heard it 1,000 times. So, Grammarly may have said it's plagiarizing, but it's just because it's like, kind of like ushering a prayer, It's like when you go, Our Father who art in heaven, it's the same thing that has been said 100 years ago that you're saying now. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt regarding that. Now I do want to point out why this is not necessarily a win and why Harvard has played this perfectly, okay? The news story of the plagiarism was broke by a right-wing journalist. To admit that this person has committed plagiarism would validate the right-wing journalist into the eyes of the public. they would also put Harvard under investigation. Like, how was it possible that your university president has managed to get a position with plagiarized work? How did no one know? How did no one find out? How was it that a right-wing journalist who doesn't even work at Harvard had to discover this? And then the next question would be, how many other people are in the same situation? Like, is this a one-off case? And then people would demand an investigation, right? So the way they did it is that, well, now she stepped down because of racismus over the internet and blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, well, it's not because of plagiarism. See, it's just accusations. Like, they were never proven, because plagiarism doesn't necessarily mean that she stole. I mean, okay, maybe she took the work of others without giving credit, but like, let's change the definition a little bit. Let's look the other way. The public isn't buying it, though, right? Okay, I seen it in the comment section that even people on the left, even people on the right, even people on the center are ratioing these newspapers. You get readers adding context all the time. People aren't buying it. And at the end of the day, the main problem isn't with the university president, is with the ideology that Harvard is promoting. It is a toxic, identity-based ideology which cannot get their president to say that genocide is wrong. They go in front of the Senate of the United States and they are so convinced that their beliefs are good that they can say, well, it depends on the context. And you have like students that are being taught into this hateful ideology. You have articles published by them that call for the destruction of the white race. And they will use free speech in order to defend those articles. However, when you look at how students on the university are treated, it's all about safe spaces, controlled speech, police speech, microaggressions, right? So you end up people who have this ideology getting promoted, and people who don't think this way sometimes not even getting hired. And this is what Harvard doesn't want people to look into. They don't want to investigate the ideology. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.